Hello, I'm Steve. A little about myself. I'm a retired law enforcement officer with 20 years of service. I began my career in the jail, worked the road, and became an investigator. During my career, my training consisted of everything from SWAT to becoming a state certified crime scene technician. I've investigated crimes from thefts to homicides. After retiring and becoming aware of true crime and web sleuths, I started my channel for web sleuths to better understand the perspectives of law enforcement. Not only do we cover true crime, I go out into the field and assist families who have lost loved ones to homicide and their cases are considered cold. Join me as we look and bring attention to these critical cases. Hello, everyone. Glad you're able to join us tonight. We'll be talking tonight about the Idaho 4 and homicides and Kohberger. And for everyone that's joining us for the first time, and we'll be in chat tonight, thank you for being here. As always, we ask everyone to be respectful of families, the mods, and of each other. What happens, we will have a presentation. After that presentation, slide presentation, I'll answer any of your questions that you have, and we'll get started with the presentation now. In this case, if you have any information regarding Madison, Kaylee, Ethan, or Zana and their homicides, absolutely, as the court date approaches and all the issues that will be coming up, law enforcement is still investigating the case, and they will take any tips that you have. And if you have any information regarding this case, absolutely make sure that the proper authorities have that information so that justice can be found. And the same with Kohberger. If you have any information directly regarding him, make sure that information is given so that justice will be for those. A lot of stuff went on in the as the investigation unfolded. Of course, everyone's looked at and seen the search warrants about Kohberger and the homicide investigations, everything from the video canvas that occurred, which was absolutely unreal how they were able to narrow the time frame of when these homicides occurred. And from that, and then, law enforcement always is looking for all different types of evidence. And when we read the affidavit for the search warrant that was there at the house located at 1122, it was noted in a part of it about a shoe print. And that's what we're looking at tonight. A lot of how that shoe print was able to stay, because they didn't get it, the first day from reading the search warrant. It was later, and which was extremely interesting. But in CSI world, as we process scenes, a lot of times you won't see everything. You'll work past something, you'll come back into a crime scene, and you may introduce another type of processing. And through that processing, you may find locate additional evidence, such as when you use luminol. And especially with the shoe prints. Shoe prints, if you look throughout your house, you'll see that your floors, it depends what room you're in. Some flooring in certain parts of your house is lighter, and then you'll have darker areas. And when you're talking about a crime scene that the investigators are there searching, and they're looking at these surfaces, and you have different lighting, you'll have different colorations of flooring, that things can get lost in that values of light and shades of different materials. And so it can be difficult. But when you turn off those lights and you hit an area of a house with luminol, then of course in total darkness, everything lights up like a Christmas tree. Y'all seen some of my other videos whereas we've gone in and used luminol on everything from materials that you would find in a vehicle to clothing to even outdoor crime scenes involving trees and leaves and just different debris. And so the blood pattern analysis, when you're looking at it and you introduce these chemicals for the processing to enhance and to bring into something that might be missed, is absolutely unreal. And as we received our training way back when I first started, it was in the late 80s, and I got my certification in the early 90s or late 80s or around 90. I can't exactly remember it. A long time ago. Yeah, it's a long time ago. I know that. But the a lot of the processes as we set up these crime scenes, that we only used limited distances. We had a limited amount of materials to work with, and including the type of blood that we used back then, which was actual. But now they have the synthetic blood, which is is not as hazardous in some ways, but once again, it has its own handling codes. But it's not like it's the pathogens that's in actual blood. But we would set up a crime scene, and we would only use it for a limited distance. And so I decided that when we look at this evidence here, that during the processing of the crime scene at 1122, the investigators found a latent shoe print. And this latent shoe print is something that was hidden. And this was located, they said here, during the second processing of the crime scene, and by a presumptive blood test, and then amino black. And that's a protein stain that detects the presence of cellular material. But the detected shoe print, of course, was diamond shaped, similar to the pattern of a Vans type shoe. And it was just outside the door of the bedroom that was located on that second floor, where that surviving witness stated that the offender walked past her. And this was, like it says, is consistent with the statement regarding the suspect's path of travel. And so I was interested in that, and that, it being latent, and it's, we're only talking in this localized second floor part of this dwelling. We're not talking about a great length of distance. And I wanted to see, for several reasons of conducting this blood transfer test that I did, just how far could you leave tracks. And working with this synthetic blood, I sat down, as you'll see here, I was able to set down this pathway, and which came, it's about 100, well, when you see the total path that we took, but just all these what kind of boards? It's just cardboard, just poster board. But when I laid out these poster board, it's 40 foot long, and so I had Mrs. Steve dress up in a pair of Vans shoes that belonged to my daughter, but Mrs. Steve put them on, and as always, she assisted me in my control test, and we decided to walk a path. I told her just walk dead center, because I wasn't really expecting and didn't know, because I never ran it to the extremes. During our training and stuff, like I said, we worked with limited areas, but I didn't know how far, for the fact I wanted to determine that if this individual, if it left a good transfer stain for 40 feet, and once that we saw what it could do, I wanted to see that how much would possibly be still at the on the sole of the shoe by the time he might possibly get to his vehicle, and what could we possibly expect for that. And this is on an absolutely perfect flat surface with maximum ability for stains to be transferred. When you have areas like might be gravel or grass or uneven areas, certain parts of the shoe may or may not touch the area. So that would extend the ability of a shoe to possibly maintain and transfer for a further distance. Plus, once you you enter into a vehicle, and your soles of your shoes are in constant contact with the floor mats and whatever, and even with the carpeting in a vehicle, which could get up into some of those areas, crevices in that diamond pattern, that there could be transfer that would be extremely valuable for the fact that if this individual stepped into any of the bloodstain or any of the DNA and transferred it to his vehicle from any of the victims, and they find that in that vehicle, it being in the carpet fibers, being on the floor mats, because it's not easy to get rid of the blood stains, especially if they're at the point where you can't hardly see them and you won't be cleaning. And these vehicles, a lot of people attempt to clean them, but they're not always very successful. But it turned out that after Mrs. Steve walked the first 40 feet, as you can see here, this is where she started off. I put a passive pool of blood, of synthetic blood, here on the first piece of poster board. And then she started walking down the middle of the board. And I told her just go all the way to the end. I followed along beside of her. And as we progressed down through here, we got to the very end. And it turned out that there was still a substantial amount of stain transfer. And Mrs. Steve looked at me and says, "What do I do now?" And so I said, "Just turn around and come back down." As you can see here on the right side, she just came back down that edge, staying on the poster board and walked all the way back. She got down to this, and there was still a little bit of transfer, so we just made her walk another on the other side of the poster board and finished out that 120-foot pathway. And
Chris is on.
hey, Chris. Chris and I have had a busy day today. I ran some more control tests for him. We made a remarkable discovery today on a case that we'll be talking about Monday night on his show. And so just a little tease there that I realized something today about the Murdoch stuff, but we'll be getting into that on his show on Monday. So I look forward to that show. But as we're looking at the transfer from Mrs. Steve, we walked it all the way out, and I was, surprised for the fact that I'd never run it this far. And now they did become from Patton, which is visible, to Layton along this area, but you could see even when after the Layton at certain times when she might have. What's going on?
My foot slipped in the shoe, that one?
Yeah, when as her, cause my daughter's feet are a lot bigger than my wife's feet, and so they didn't fit properly. But
I was playing dress
yeah,
up.
yeah, she's playing dress up. But there was still every now and then with certain pressures that it would make a transfer stain that out of nowhere that was very surprising, and that's how come we did this. And but as you can see, I went in, and of course, we had each one of the poster board numbered 1, 2, 3, all the way up. But then I went beside each shoe print, and I had a tape laid alongside so that we could see what the distance was. And you'll see these numbers. That's 3, 4.5 feet, 6 feet. As we progress all the way down this row of poster boards. And you'll see that early on, when she first lifted her feet from that passive pool of synthetic blood, there was cast off occurred. And even when her heel hit that in that heavy laden transfer, there was cast off that went out in front of the shoe, like here at the 3 foot, her first step. And you can see that at 4.5. Then you see a little bit less at the 6 foot. And as you move on down, you'll see that we don't have as much of the cast off occurring, and eventually it just stops. And now you only start having the a clear, defined of showing the design of what that shoe pattern looks like. And it gets better. And there's going to be a point along this path where that shoe print is going to be pretty impressive. It's going to be, it'll give the most detail. And that's what we're looking for as an investigator, because when you're looking back here at these early ones, you can't hardly tell anything about any part of the pattern. You can here at the 6 foot part, you start seeing a little bit, But as you progress on down 8 foot, 10 foot, 11 and a half, and here at 13, you start seeing that van sole pattern, and it starts becoming clearer. And then as you move on, you start seeing it a little bit better. And this is part one of the analysis of the shoe prints. I'm going to go back in there, and we're going to hit them with chemicals, and you'll be able to see it. Yes, never give up a chance at doing some type of lab work. But at the 15, 17, the 19 was a very good transfer. And that's probably one of the best transfers, because you can see everything from the heel design to the toe design, and you can see a lot of the sole characteristics and of that diamond pattern. And if you was going to collect this shoe for evidence, of course, you would throw a scale in there to measure it and make sure it's at 90 degrees. And I have some that are to scale that will be coming in when I do the luminol and the amido black and everything on it. But for this part of the program and early stages, I just wanted to show y'all how that stain pattern goes, because at 19 and 20 feet, and it's going to be somewhere around here that we can possibly see from where Zana homicide occurred and Ethan's, that's going to be approximate somewhere in this area from 15 to 20 feet. When the offender went past that doorway, it's going to be a pretty good point that if he had stepped into any type of passive blood pattern that was in that room, that we would have a optimum chance at seeing a really good shoe print. And it's not that always that the whole shoe has to be in contact. Any part of that shoe would leave a certain stain pattern. It's not always that people will absolutely step in a large pool, but understanding the potential of how many victims that were injured by that edged weapon, that there is a great potential for there to be passive pools of blood anywhere in that residence of where the homicides occurred. And so there was great potential that he could have stepped into a passive pool anywhere and transferred it from upstairs, downstairs, down the steps, anywhere that there's a surface that would accept that stain easily. Then we move on further down, and you can see that still at the 22, the 24 foot, the 26 foot, we still have some really good transfer that clearly show parts of that sole design. And now we start getting on out here and we start fading. Now, just because it's fading doesn't mean that there's still not some type of transfer that you can't enhance in several different ways. And you'll see here in a minute how one way that I was able to enhance it with no chemicals, just using computers and filters, and able to enhance it so that you can see a little bit. But the 34, 36 foot on her left foot on this one was pretty, not a lot of detail. But here at the 40, where she had to turn around, on the no filter at the 40-foot mark, you can barely see it. But by adjusting and running it through some filters and the lighting, we can see that this is the point that she turned around. And on the left foot, you see that with just the picture to the left, you really can't see a lot of detail. But just running it through a filter on a computer system program, you're able to see that changing the lighting, the contrast, and the values, that you can see something. And then we, even when she turned around and was coming back down the other way, and I came on down and added on another 20 foot, and you'll see here, not looking at the center where she's walking down on her first path, but on the return route, just to the side of where the 20 and a half foot marker is, and actually were the 20.5 foot. I wrote over the shoe. I didn't see it as I was writing that foot marker down, and I didn't even pay attention that there was a shoe print there. But by changing the filters and the values and the contrast, you can see that the shoe print is there. And this will be actually one of the, in this area, because you can see that there's very little value of any type of transfer that you can see with no filter. But I'll be hitting this with the chemicals, you know, of course, when I black it out, I'll hit it with aluminol. And then we have the, yeah, this is a metal black. I've got other chemicals and stuff over there, also of different things that I can test with, different types of stains and stuff. But I bought this just for this because this is the process that was used in Idaho. There's other things out there that can create certain types of enhancements, but I wanted y'all to be able to see some of this. But also at the top of the page, you'll see where I have two arrows that show 120 feet, or it points from the no filter to the filter area. There was a transfer that once I put it through the filter, that on the right you see just a hint, and I'm excited. You know, the CSI part of me absolutely wants to see that when I enhance this area that I've got marked here, because this is after Mrs. Steve walked the 40 and went back to the 80-foot long line, and then came back another 40 feet to the 120 feet mark, that there was still some stain transfer ability of this synthetic blood. And so I can't wait to hit it with the chemicals to see how much transfer there is, because the more transfer that we're able to determine, the more likely that there will be some type of DNA transfer or some type of blood stain transfer to his vehicle. And so that's the exciting part. Don't know if it will hold true, but it went further than I thought, because like I said, when we did this back in the, when we was getting our certifications, it wasn't on such a contrasting surface such as this poster board. It was on just whatever linoleum floor or tiles or marble, rock, whatever we were walking on to do our testing and our training on. But this was a control that I really wanted to see and give it the chance for the highest value. And hopefully whenever we analyze this, and I think we should have it by Tuesday, if I can get Mrs. Steve to allow me to.
Of course, honey.
Yeah, I push her to the limit sometimes.
Surely not.
But we get the try to get all the lab work done, and it takes a little bit. It is a process. All right, but I just wanted to set up and let y'all know about how the tracking and the potential of just this one part has very little to do with the weapon, has very little to do with his clothing, although that will also possibly allow some transfer, especially his clothing, because if whatever clothing he had and whatever cast off that occurred during the assaults, if that went onto his clothing and that either touched the seat belt or he touched his clothing that had some type of stain or transfer on it from cast off or otherwise, and then he touched any part of his vehicle, including the seats, gear shift, or a steering wheel, radio controls, his phone, all those surfaces have the potential of a transfer of some type of DNA profile. And the CSI will absolutely be looking for that. Then also, before we go to any of the questions, there was recently about some information of the state of Idaho versus Brian Kohberger and different types of orders. And there's been some mentioning about orders to seal. And so I went into their Idaho's court systems and seen what type of orders have been out there. And it starts off from the earliest date of 12/29. You have all these from the probable cause, arrest warrants, complaints, and you see orders and things of how to preserve and what they're going to do as the court system has proceeded. And then, like I said, there was a lot made up about recent credit cards and some of the orders to seal. And so I wanted to go in there and see exactly how many orders to seal there were. And motion to temporary seal, as you can see on here, starting on February the 28th. You had some motions to unseal on February 27th, but on February 28th, they had motion to temporary seal, and then you had orders to temporary seal. And then we start the cascade avalanche of orders to seal. You got Amazon, American Express, Apple, AT&T, Bank of America. I mean, they sealed Blue Ridge Knives, Charter Communications. There's so many orders to seal. It's just not of what you're seeing out there about the Amazon, American Express. Everything in the world has been ordered to seal and redact. And from Discovered Bank, Dropbox, eBay, and you just go on and on. And so I found this amazing because, like I said, when I was watching the news and reading some of the articles, I thought it was just simply to do with that one, credit card purchase or something. And it does. It has something to do with that. But then it has that everything else is, we have to some orders to seal and some orders to redact and unseal. And so we're going to see a lot of that in the courts upcoming. And they've been very busy on trying to get everything sealed, as you can see. And you go on to another page. And from Snap to Reddit to PayPal, even the order to seal and redact the Moscow Police Department Forensic Lab, and Meta Platforms, K-Bar Knives. That's the first one on the top of this page. Order to seal and redact K-Bar Knives Inc. So whatever was sent to them and subpoenaed and has been released, and the orders to subpoena that information has been there. And then we got here to the final page, order to seal and redact. Once again, it's every company you can imagine. And I'm sure there's good reason, good cause. And I think as they said, that they don't want anything to interfere or jeopardize this case. And so they've locked it down about as tight as anything I've ever seen for a good cause, I'm sure. All right. But anyway, with that being said, if we have any questions, we'll start getting them.
Let's see here.
But I just found it curious. I'd never seen that many orders to seal on any case I've ever been involved in.
All right. First one we're going to do is the Mike D experience.
Hey, thank you. We appreciate, Mike, that you're supporting the channel. All that will help us go out and work our cases, and we appreciate it.
And then I'm going to start with Miss Ann.
Okay.
Mrs. Steve, what a way to spend your Saturday night.
That was in the middle of the day too. It's just not Saturday night. We're a party all the time.
All the time. All right. Single Mama 4. Did they find the K-Bar knife?
I think when they mentioned this, no, they didn't find anything post-crime. What they're trying to do is find from the purchases of it pre-crime. And so that's my take on it. But they sealed it all of where is this the K-Bar that was used in these homicides? Post-crime, anything to do with it, there's nothing that we know of. They may have it, but I don't have any documentation saying they have found it.
And John Shepard, hello. Do you think the main trial will be this year or next?
Oh, I'm hoping this year, but or if it is this year, it'd be late fall, I would imagine, but probably more next year, because there's still a lot of information and a lot of processing that will go on, and a lot of, attorneys negotiating different aspects of the trial.
And single mama 4. Did they find a lot at his parents' house evidence wise, Mr. Steve? I've not been on top of this case lately. I was stuck on the Murdoch case.
I've been stuck on the Murdoch case also, but no, I looked at that, and I think there were 63 items from the father that was accredited to him on the search warrant that was in Pennsylvania. Everything from swabs to taking a lot of his devices and electronic motherboards and things um, that they seized. And if there's any evidence on that that will be used in trial, of course, those will be kept and be analyzed by the defense also. And the items that were taken that were linked to Brian was far shorter. I think my video we did Tuesday night was on it.
Tuesday night.
Yes. So the Tuesday night video, if you'll go back and watch it, you'll see the Pennsylvania search warrant part of it.
Okay. Try this again. All right. And Mr. Steve, how in the world do you think, given the carnage of the crime scene, that there weren't more bloody footprints from the perp walking through and out of the scene?
I believe there was. I just don't know the exact what the flooring looked like, and on wooden floors and things, on dark wood patterns. Once blood dries, it's pretty hard to destroy unless you add some type of moisture to it or something. And so it is very resilient and will maintain. And that's how more than likely we're able on the second search through. And crime scene has evolved that they now make plates that you set down inside these crime scenes and walk on, so that you're not having direct contact with any potential evidence, such as shoe prints. We didn't have that back in the day. If there were certain areas, you had to put planking down or something that you could step across or around, so that you wouldn't possibly destroy any type of shoe print that you couldn't see at the moment. But with like I said, over the years they've developed new ways of creating these step overs and things that will allow you to not interfere. And when they introduced, and I don't know if they put luminol into this residence, but if they did, that would absolutely show all the, regardless of what type of possible coloration of the flooring or wood patterns on the flooring that might hide a transfer stain. When you hit it with luminol in total darkness, and there's different types of products out there that will make that transfer light up and shine in total darkness. And so once they did that, of course, it doesn't matter what the background looks like, because you don't see the background in the darkness. You only see that luminescence of the chemicals reacting with that transfer stain.
Okay, and Snail.
Snail, nice to be in channels that's positive. Thank you. We appreciate it.
Thank you so much.
And we have a great community, and there's no reason not to be positive.
And Miranda Lee.
Great to be here. Thank you for your hard work and preparation for the show. Thank you.
Thank you so much. We appreciate that, y'all.
Yeah. After 33 years of marriage, getting,
Nothing is a shock.
yeah. I mean, how many of you have ever asked your wife to, if you don't mind this evening, I want you to walk through a passive pool of blood and down a poster board walkway,
Mhm.
runway.
All right. And let's see here. All right, so we did that one. All right, and from Ann, Mr. Steve, do you think Perp had shoe covers on? In which case, the van shoe print wouldn't be the Perp's. Maybe somebody else's of the many people who apparently went through that scene the next day.
I would have thought that, but they put that shoe pattern in this search warrant for a reason. And they wouldn't have done that if it was possibly potentially another one of the inhabitants or co-inhabitants of the residence, or a friend, or of something of that. But they included it in the search warrant, and so by including it, it sends signals that it's related to the a homicide in some fashion. If not, then they've made a mistake that may create some issues during the trial. But I believe that they included it for a reason, and I think it's evidence that if they saw this shoe print in other parts of the house where the first transfers had occurred, especially close to a passive pool of some type of blood pattern from any of the victims, they would be able to start identifying that print. Just like, you know, when you're real close to it, it may be in this manner, but you can still see it even by the 6 foot location. You start seeing parts of that shoe print that are clear and defined, that we're looking for this diamond shape. And the further you get away, then we see we've got more diamonds. And so if they're close to that first initial passive pool and those first 3 or 4 steps, then they know that, oh, okay, this is someone that's more likely that was involved in the crime scene itself. Um, and if not, you know, if they have someone that was in the house that says, yes, I went over there trying to render aid, and these are the shoes I was wearing, of course you could eliminate them. I don't think that's the case um, in this particular instance.
And the blue light special goes to one who sees for 5 gifted memberships.
Thank you. Appreciate it. That means a lot to us. Absolutely.
It sure does. All right, and let's see here. All right, let's go back.
Yeah, this synthetic this blood that we use, like I said, it comes from, you know, it's just a little bottle of it. It's not real big, but they like it. But you know, I mean, you're not even looking at, you know, probably this half pint or so of it.
All right, and from Ann, Mr. Steve. So, do you think LE has more latent shoe tracks than have been reported?
Yes, I do now. But I do. And from those different parts, are they're able to build a complete shoe print, because it's not always what you have on just this one shoe print. I mean, you can take a measurement almost and tell the length, that if this was to scale and you put something in there to scale with it so you can measure, you know what the length of this foot is. But when you get out here, you can see that certain parts of this shoe is clear and defined in certain sections. But you can go in with technologies and find certain characteristics and start building a full, absolute, correct representation of that shoe. And by, you know, um, just splicing together the design so that you would have a clear image of it from end to end.
Give a quick recap, if you would please, for Pigeon Mac.
Okay.
You know, she had the issues with the eyesight.
Sure.
And it's just the.
Yes. What we did is that I had Mrs. Steve to help me participate in starting with a passive pool of blood to show the potential that the offender, if he had stepped in any type of pool of blood at the crime scene, how far could he have carried that transfer, not only within the residence, but possibly all the way out to his vehicle, and then transfer it to either the floor mats of the vehicle or to the carpet areas in the lower sections. And that's what we were concentrating on. This is just how far would it go, and I try to create the most ideal situation I could of that would optimize the transfer patterns. And I was able to get it out to 120 feet, and I can't wait to hit it with the chemicals to see what it looks like at 120 feet, which is all the way down here. And when I hit that with aluminol and with the amido black, like I said, that'll be interesting.
All right, and then this next one is for me. From Ann. Mrs. Steve, did you ever think this would be your runway moment? Well, let me just say that this is not my first runway moment.
Yes.
There you go. All right. So thanks for asking. All right. And from Sean, shoe prints also leave prints on carpet. Mr. Steve, are these type of tracks just as important, even though there is no blood?
Yes, for the fact that there's fiber, there's hair, and we're talking about something that everyone knows that blood can become sticky, and so it can pick up that hair and that fiber, and that hair and that fiber can then be the key that will link. That if he walked anywhere in that house, and just not this house, I don't know if there was carpet in this house, but then when you go into that other vehicle, there's a potential of transfer of those carpet fibers into that vehicle environment. And so, and yes, you're right. You can leave shoe prints on just about anything, and regardless of the surface, all of them's important. And actually, that's a good idea. I will do some. I'll get Mrs. Steve to do me some carpet transfers, and we'll have those in a future show. Great idea. Appreciate it, Sean.
You always did like carpet.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Let's see here.
There's nothing in a crime scene that can't be processed or doesn't have the possibility to be the key to solve that case. You have to be absolutely open-minded to everything in a house, and you have to gather as much hair, fiber, and of that environment both ways.
And Miss Betty,
super sticker. Thank you. Appreciate your support.
And
Christian, thank you. Yes, we're about to go to Texas. All that's going to come in handy.
It sure is. All right. And Miss Debbie.
Yeah. And when I say go to Texas, it's not for a trip of anything other than we're going out there to work a cold case with Chris. He's going to meet us out there on the Amber Crumb case, which at the end of the show, I'll give a link for anyone that wishes to donate through the foundation also. Thank you.
And Sean, Mr. Steve, can you tell about what the weight of the suspect might be according to these type of tracks?
No, different people, if it's in certain types of soil or mud, that might be a possibility, or sand. But on hard surfaces, no, not so much, because they will have wear patterns. And there may be some experts out there that can tell you certain characteristics about past injuries and what might cause an individual to walk in a certain manner, there's different things about pigeon-toed and all this other stuff that people out there that's in that field can understand. But as far as the weight, I don't believe so that I've ever been able to find out anything about that.
Okay, hold on 1 second. Almost done. All right. And Mr. Steve, might be interesting to explore how much synthetic blood could soak through foot cover onto shoe, such that even if perp took shoe covers off before getting in car, may have still tracked some residue.
I'll do that also. I'll do that with the carpet. I'll list that down and see. I know that you know, there you can filter out some of the stuff, but there's always potential that the transfer will still be there. But yeah, I'll do that. I'll do my carpet and booty tests, and for the
Y'all are gonna
future.
make me work. Y'all know that, right? Appreciate it.
Yeah, I can't. Some of the booties I can't get on my feet. My shoes are too big for the booties that they make. Mrs. Steve has to
That's where I
participate.
come in.
Yeah.
And this is absolutely priceless. And this is from Dave. The couple that does crime experiments together stays together.
Yes, I don't know if there's another couple out there that's discussed more homicides than we have.
Yeah, no.
No, I mean,
And
yeah,
ways to do it. And
for
yeah,
for all these decades.
decades, literally. All right. And from Diane, question: Why all their bank records?
Oh, I don't. Like I said, um, there's a reason for it, and I know that may be to protect and make sure that the trial or no one does anything that will interfere with the presentation of those records and evidence. And we live in a different world now with the true crime world, and I can see whereas they're trying to seal that, and so certain people and names and experts that will be called to court won't be, um, um, exposed to any type of in analysis by or uh, influenced. And so I can understand that. And so, but they sealed everything, and why not? We'll see why and how much is sealed. But I mean, it's page after page of things being sealed. If you just saw that, and some of it's been unsealed because, well, not so much unsealed, but the documents saying they're sealed have are available, and people are making great hay with that.
Okay. And catatonics. Steve, why do you think they are so tight lipped and have sealed so much? Do you think this is going to be the new normal for cases in the future?
Probably so, um, because everyone has the ability to go out there and buy these programs and do these searches, and social media is so powerful out there. We're in a area that, uh, and it has its good side, but it also has its dark side. And there's so many innocent people that can be impacted that we have to be so careful to protect. And so we'll have to hash through this and figure out what's the best path.
Okay. And Monique, question: more attorneys being hired. Any comments?
Oh, I'm sure that, just seeing all this stuff, that there's a reason all this data is having to be processed, all that camera, all that cell phone activities, um, and all the evidence that's been collected. Um, and not just attorneys, but experts. And just as we saw with the Murdoch homicide and trial in South Carolina, you saw experts from both sides with their views from both sides, um, and and how each side has their own narrative, and it won't be any different with this one. Everybody's going to have their own narrative, and everybody's going to have their hired guns to do and say exactly what they were paid to do and say.
Okay. And from Dave, got some more possible info on the Mindy West case, Steve. Can I send it to you?
Yes, send it to Steve at truecrimeweb.com. Absolutely. Look forward to seeing it.
All right. And Too Much Mom, do you think the reason for the ridiculously out of the way route home to PA was because he was disposing of evidence? I do, LOL.
I there's some evidence that he may have, and we will know from the analysis of whatever he took to Pennsylvania. If he still had evidence on him in Pennsylvania when he was arrested and the house was searched, then there is that potential that he could have possibly got rid of some of the other evidence on the way. But if they find nothing that links him at that residence, he got rid of it at some point prior to, and I can't argue that he may have done it during during that route, but that's extremely risky. That many days, knowing that because he would have seen and that what law enforcement had, because they were extremely open and transparent of what they were doing, and he knew that he would be on a short list, especially when they announced that vehicle. And he started seeing his vehicle on the cameras, and this is things that they were looking for. Um, he would have known that, of course, he was going to be included in on that. And at that point is when he would have really tried to distance himself from any type of evidence at the crime scene.
All right. And Kathleen McNally at Steve, with the test you and Mrs. Steve did with the spray while walking, her pants and socks would have transfer as she walked.
With spray, I'm trying to figure out the spray part.
Did with the spray. It wasn't. I guess it's that.
Okay. No, the spray. Okay,
I guess that's what it is, right?
Yeah, I think this is what you're talking about. This is called cast off.
Okay.
Yes.
That.
It's generally what's from the sole and it's downward. And yes, you can from one foot to another, as you can see that where her right foot was. Yes, around the cuffs of the pants and on the socks and on the side of the shoes. You're absolutely correct. There can be some cast off. And then it just depends on the second step. As you can see, it comes almost up there from the 3 foot to the 4.5 foot. You're exactly right. And that's what law enforcement looks for.
Good job.
Mm-hmm. Good observation. And you're exactly right. That's what is part of it.
Okay. And Moon Dancer.
Yes. Thank you. 999
so
super
much.
sticker. Thank you. Appreciate that.
All right, let me catch up here. Just 1 second. Okay. All right, and that was Kathleen. Miranda Lee, Steve, do you think that Brian Kohberger is an incel?
I don't know. I mean, there's been a lot, and that's a new narrative now. I don't really know. We'll see. And I don't know if they'll if that's something that will be brought up in court. Just don't know.
Okay. And Pigeon Mac, Mr. No, you've already done that. All right, I'm going to skip that one. Let's see here. And Miranda, Steve, do you think there is more of Kohberger's DNA at the scene?
Yes, I believe so. You don't get in 4 violent encounters without some type of transfer from yourself to them, regardless of what clothing you may have put on and how you prepared. There's still, you drove there in a vehicle. When you left that vehicle, and from whatever environment, that's on the outer part of your clothing, and that environment gets transferred to any other type of contacts in that environment. So his vehicle environment would have been transferred into the crime scene, and from the crime scene back to the vehicle would have been transferred to that vehicle. And so I do believe there's some of Kohberger's DNA. Well, we know on the knife sheath that we have Kohberger's DNA, and I believe there's probably more in there also. Finding it is the hard part.
Okay. And Mr. Steve, have you noticed from all the YouTube videos and news reports showing the inside of the house whether there was carpeting versus tiling? I don't remember Ellie taking carpet out of the house.
Yeah, I don't know what they took out. I haven't seen, we've seen some YouTube videos of different parts of the house at different times. I don't know the night of, the week before, what works or updates have been done. recently, and you know, we really don't know what they bagged and tagged.
And Betty, please tell us where to donate to make the most impact. I know YouTube takes a portion, but there is any way you can, as opposed to just getting a portion.
Right here.
Oh,
You take off that bottom part, Betty.
I'm trying.
Mhm.
Okay. Nope. It still didn't go. All right, now.
Okay. We have a foundation, and I was going to bring it up at the end of the show because we're about to go to Texas, reference Amber Crumb in April. And this foundation is not just for Amber Crumb, but it's for all our cold cases. It allows us to travel and work. And so if you want the tax benefits, this foundation gives you that tax benefit, and also gives us, because it's a nonprofit, it's a 501c3. And so you can do online donations. If you don't want to do a online donation, but you still want to contribute, you either by check or otherwise, send me an email at steve@truecrimeweb.com, and we'll get you the information so you can send a check or whatever you want to do.
You can also wire the money.
And you could wire too, I think,
Through
but
the bank.
through the bank. And just let us know. And but this is one that the least amount of fees is on, is through this foundation. Thank you for the question.
Okay. And let's see here. Keep focused. Steve, do you have any gut feelings on whether he may have done anything like this before? Not necessarily a multi victims case, but an unsolved victims case.
I'm sure he has some type of build up to this type of crime. What those crimes are, don't know. But there's, you know, this type of individuals, these type of crimes is not usually a first act. Um, and what other type of crimes are out there from his nighttime activities, uh, voyeur or otherwise? There's a lot of things out there that have potential. And he could also have other victims out there that's just not been linked to him at this time. And which they'll be doing a complete financial offender uh, profile of him, of his travels, any times he's in certain areas, and any crimes that would have crossed paths with his financials, buying gas, staying at motels, travels, living, and they would instantly be going in there and trying to see if any of those match his profile.
All right. Did I do Moon Dance or Super Sticker?
I did one.
I did. Okay. So I guess that's the same one. I don't know. All right. And have that. And Indy Super Sticker.
Thank you. Appreciate it. Your support means a lot to us.
Yes, it does. Okay. And Alana, when do we find out about all the evidence?
A lot of it won't come out, just like we saw, like you see a lot of times, is the attorneys will make discovery, and it will be released to that. And some of that can be sealed and we don't know. And as we saw with the Murdoch case, on the defensive side of it, they don't always do reports, and that keeps out some of the evidence that the defense is going to be bringing into the case, because there's not a report. It's all in the mind of the expert. And is there a purpose of that for the defense? Yes, they want the state guessing, and the state has to give all their information, absolutely, the reports and all the stuff. The experts that's for the prosecution will have those reports, and the defense gets to look at them and read them in total. And whereas the defense, when they call in their experts, like I said, they don't always fill out all the reports, and they'll say, well, it wasn't requested. And so we'll see if that continues out here in Idaho like it did in South Carolina.
Okay, and I think we got one more. All right. And from Ann, Mr. Steve, did you hear a report that BK had a job filleting fish back in PA at some? In my opinion, that's interesting because it would give him a lot of experience with a knife other than just home kitchen use.
That would be interesting. No, I hadn't heard that. I haven't. It's the first I've heard of that.
Ick. All right. And that is it.
All right, guys. Well, I hope y'all have enjoyed this. And if you did enjoy the video, subscribe, like, share. It means a lot for us as we build our platform and our community gets larger. We have a larger impact um, it, for our code cases as we move forward. And as I was saying,
One more.
okay.
And Kristen.
Steve, did you see where the juror named James in Murdoch trial used your theory of tripping backwards over the door threshold? Um, Not my theory. It is a theory that I had come to. He came to the same conclusion as what I came to. Um, and Chris just recently released last night. He released James's actual video on that, and I found it extremely interesting and extremely bright individual. And I agree with him that this is one possibility of why that second shot was shot at such a acute angle. But yes, thank you.
All right.
But like I said, the case that we're looking at right now, our first cold case for this year that Chris and I are collaborating on and going to Texas on, is on Amber Crum, a little 2-year-old that went missing in 1983. It's been 40 years. We're going to be going out there to see if we can attempt to locate grave and recover her remains. Larry is a good friend of mine now, and we've developed a relationship, and he's going to meet us out there in April whenever we get out there, if everything goes to plan. And if anyone wishes to support this code case and making sure that I can get the scientists out there that I'm going to be bringing in from Illinois, shipping them down to Texas along with the equipment. This is the way to best support that. And we appreciate everybody's support, everybody that's donated tonight, watch, view, share. All of that has impact on our ability to go out and do this stuff. And we just want to thank everybody for that.
And Monday night?
And Monday night, we'll have Chris. I'll be on his show. I don't know what the time will be, but we'll be talking about the Murdoch. And like I said, I was doing some controls on it also today, and made some revelations that I didn't realize until I was able to do those controls.
And then Tuesday night?
And then Tuesday night, we will have our follow-up show on this, and you'll get to see some of those shoe prints that are absolutely latent and that you can't even identify them as being a shoe print. And we'll see how good the chemicals reactions are.
Awesome.
Good All
job.
Right. Thank you.
Thanks, guys.
Y'all stay safe out there and see y'all soon.
Love y'all. Thanks, Jennifer Rochelle.
Yes, all our mods.